All right, Chagiga Daf Zayin. We are cruising. Today we start with a Mishnah with two machlokeses that are similar between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. First one has to do with bringing the shlamim on Yantif. What's the question? Can I do smicha on the shlamim? And also, what about the carbon ola? Can I bring that on Yantif as well? So remember on yesterday's daf we had this whole Mishnah about smicha on Yantif, where we had a bench clearing brawl, Beis Shammai, Beis Hillel, Shmaya, Talia, and it was almost like a rite of passage where each Nasi and Al Beis Din had to have an opinion on that debate. So today we just kind of reference it in passing. We say that Beis Shammai holds that you do bring a carbon shlamim on Chag, but you do the smicha before Chag. They don't hold that smicha has to be right before you bring the shlamim. Rather, it can be done before Chag, even though you bring the shlamim on Yontif itself. And then in terms of olos, because that's completely burnt for Hashem, there's no need, or it doesn't qualify as ochel nefesh, and it's not something that you can slaughter on Yontif itself. Beis Hillel opposes, and they say that you do bring the shlamim on Yontif. You do smicha on Yantif as well, because it is something, it must be done right before. And you also bring olos on Yantif. Why? And he brings a pasuk, because it says lachem. So that implies that although the ola is going 100% for Hashem, that is included as part of the ochel nefesh criteria, so it's fine. But so the Gemara actually doesn't talk about this machlokes at all. Rather, it talks about the next machlokes, which is what happens if Shavuos falls out on a Friday. So a similar idea, because Shavuos is the Chag. Beis Shammai, who says that you're not really supposed to slaughter the karbanos on Chag itself, say that you declare a Yom Tvicha, a day of slaughtering, on Sunday. Obviously, you can't do it on Shabbos. You do it on Sunday instead. And Beis Hillel say, no, you're actually supposed to you do it on Friday, and there is no Yom Tvicha necessary. I chose my words carefully, and the Gemara is going to explain it in a moment. So, second thing that the Gemara opens up by talking about the source. First of all, how do we even know this concept of tashlumin for Shavuos? That if you don't shech the animals on the day of Chag, you have the next 7 days. So we learn this out from a pasuk which says v'chag hamatzos, chag Shavuos, and chag Sukkos. So that compares Shavuos to Pesach. Just like Pesach, you have 7 days to slaughter the Karban Pesach. So to Shavuos, you have 7 days. So I want to know, wait a second, why do you compare it to Sukkos, which has 8 days? So we end up saying, no, there's this concept of tefasta meruba lo tefasta. I mean, if you ask for too much, then you don't get anything. So we go by the smaller amount. Tashlumin is just 7 days and not 8 days. But then we want to know, and this, by the way, is Rav Oshia's famous psak, which is that you have 7 days for tashlumin for Shavuos because of the pasuk comparing it to Pesach. Where Gemara is now going to present 3 challenges to Rav Oshia's din, and he is actually going to uphold all 3. First one we say has to do with we bring this concept of Beis Hillel. It's actually from our Mishnah, where Beis Hillel says that there's no Yom Tvicha. So the question is, does that mean that you're not allowed to shech them on Sunday, or that there's no need for it because you can do it on Friday? So Rav Oshia pretty much upholds, and he says that no, it's just that there's no need for it, but there really is a tashlumin period if you want it. There's some nafkaminas in there as well that we're not going to dig into. But number 2 is we have a brisa that says mi shelo chag shivas yemei Pesach, etc. And also, so whoever doesn't shecht it on Pesach, or doesn't shecht it on Shavuos or Sukkos, shuv eno chogeg, meaning if they don't do it by the end of the Chag, then they don't get to anymore. So that seems to be a challenge to Rav Oshia, because Rav Oshia says you have 7 days, but this seems to say you only have until the end of Shavuos. So what he ends up saying is no, you if you don't do it after the Yom Tvicha, then you can't anymore. So Rav Oshia says doesn't really apply to me because I believe that there is a Yom Tvicha. Then third challenge is there's a pasuk that says mina yamim b'kiyash chodesh, mina yamim b'kiyash atzeres, which pretty much says that, like, how much time do you have to do kiyash chodesh? you have the amount of units that make up the counting. So you count 30 days, so you have one day to do Kiddush Chodesh. Same thing with Shavuos. You count 50 days till Shavuos, so you have one day for Shavuos. But we refute that. We say, what are you talking about? We count weeks for Shavuos also. So you're telling me that maybe I have a full week for Shavuos. So that's why we backtrack that. We say, no, that doesn't really apply. We end up the Gemara by bringing a second source, this time by Rav Yaakov, Bar Velazar Bar Yaakov, sorry. And he says there's another pasuk, which I'll read to you. It says, Ukurasem. There's two separate pasukim in Vayikra Chav Gimel. One of them says Ukurasem, one of them says Ubekutechem. So you convoke Shavuos, and then you harvest it. So what do you mean? How are you supposed to harvest it? You're not allowed to harvest on Yom Tov. So what Rav Yaakov Bar Elazar says, Yaakov says that it must be referring to the Tashlumin, because you can like announce Chag on one day, and then you can bring the Karban on a day where you can harvest it, which is on the Tashlumin. You might say, why do we need both? If I only had the first one, which was a famous one, Bar Oshia, then I would think that just like we comparing it to Pesach, I would also assume that you can't do malacha on those days of Tashlumin either, just like Pesach. But we know that we can. And if I only had the second one, which is comparing it to the Kurasem of the Kirtzacham, I wouldn't know how many days of Tashlumin I have. I just know that I have days of Tashlumin, so that's why we need both. And thus concludes Chagiga Daf Yud Zayin, short but sweet daf. Have a great day.